Hey everybody, my name is Dax Vincent, and I wanted to take a second and tell you some incredible animal stories about PXP and just some of the amazing results that we've heard and that people are getting. I'm going to tell you two stories about horses. I'm going to tell you one story about the founder's miniature dachshund, and I'm going to tell you a story about a friend of mine's dog named Sugar. So the first story was told to me by a friend of mine named Kevin. He does a lot of work with the Amish, and one of the Amish families had a horse that was in horrible condition. And it was so bad that all of their Amish neighbors were coming by and they said, you just really need to put that horse down. And the thing is for a lot of the Amish families, their horses are like members of their families. Not only that, they also are kind of like their car because they pull their horse-drawn carriages. They're kind of like their tractor because, they work out in the fields with them and this kind of thing. And so, this family had great love and respect for their horse. And so they spent a ton of money on supplements and all kinds of things, and just nothing was really helping this horse. And the horse, I think it had open wounds on its spine and stuff like that. It was just not in good shape. And so somebody introduced them to PXP. They first heard about it, and my friend Kevin was involved. And so the people very excitedly started giving their horse PXP, and the horse gradually started getting better until finally they invited Kevin over. And it was almost like a surprise party. They had a party out there, and it was a big celebration. And then they opened up the barn doors, and here stands this horse in all its glory, kind of almost back from the dead. And this horse, was doing so much better. So that was the first horse story. The second one, I heard this from a friend of mine down in Mexico. And there is a lady in Midland, Odessa, who is using a version of the PXP that was designed more for animals, and it's you could maybe say it's not quite as strong as the one that we use for humans. And anyway, the whole point there is that with a product that's not as strong as what we have available, this is what she's accomplishing. So she's working with former race horses, and these are horses that when their career is over, oftentimes they don't get to keep on living. They get executed. And so it's a horrible thing, but she's come in and she started working with these horses and feeding them PXP, and these horses are starting to run and win races again. And so what's happening is she's extending the lives of these horses, she's improving the lives of these horses, and not only that, the owners of the horses now have a horse that's winning races. So this horse is now worth a bunch of money to them. They can stud this horse out and all kinds of things. So that was the second story. I was amazed when I heard that. The third story, the founder of the company, he told me this. He said that when he first ran across PXP, and it was an earlier version, not the purple rice that we have now, it was a different kind of rice. He had a 12-year-old miniature dachshund, and the longest known living miniature dachshund was like 19 years, and his was 12 years old. And she was way beyond the time where she could go up and down the stairs, and so he started giving her some PXP. Before long, he saw her, she'd go up one stair, and then, she'd go up another stair, and before too much longer at all, she was going all the way up to the top of the steps. And then she actually had enough energy, she was racing up and down the steps, and this is an amazing thing. So she went on to live another 5 years. That's an amazing thing about PXP. It can extend the lives of our animals and even give them a better quality of life. The last story that I'll tell you was some friends of mine here in Texas have a dog named Sugar. And ever since I first heard about PXP, I thought, what? We need to get Sugar some PXP, because Sugar's a great dog and a little older, not getting around quite as well. And finally, a couple of weeks ago, we were able to get Sugar some PXP. And I got word back from my friends that when they go on walks, there's a hill that Sugar has to go up. Sugar used to pant and struggle a little bit to get up the hill, and now there's no huffing and puffing and no panting. Not to mention the fact they told me that they've been taking the PXP themselves and they really love the energy boost. So these are just a few of the stories that I've heard, and it's amazing some of the things that PXP has done for animals and can do for animals. So if you want to try some of it out or see how it'll work on your animals, just get a hold of the person that sent you to this audio or this video. Not to mention the fact that PXP is pretty amazing for humans as well. I'll tell you one last story. I have a 92-year-old neighbor, and sort of by accident we got her some of this PXP. Now, a full dose is typically a teaspoon, and we only got her about 1/8 of a teaspoon. And it was funny because when a friend of mine gave it to her, she said to him or to herself, she says, what in the world is this stuff he's given me? This isn't going to do anything, especially this tiny little amount like this 1/8 of a teaspoon. And so she, every day of her life, she'd been living with pain in her joints. She'd been living with pain in her joints at night. They'd wake her up in the middle of the night. She'd have to massage her joints just so that she could get back to sleep. Then in the mornings, she'd wake up, she had all kinds of ointments and salves next to her, and she'd have to rub those on her joints and massage her feet and toes and everything for a couple of hours just so she could get up. And then once she got up to walk around, she had to use a cane or have someone hold her arm or something like this. And so she called me up the next day because we're also friends, and she just was beside herself wanting to tell me what had happened. She said, first of all, it was the first time she'd slept the whole night through in years. And she didn't wake up with, she didn't have joint pain in the middle of the night that woke her up. She slept through all the way through the night. And then in the morning, she told me she woke up and she felt like a champ. She had no pain. So instead of having to massage her joints for hours, she just got up. And not only that, she could walk around and she didn't need her cane. So later in the day, not much later, but a little bit later, she decided to go out and check her mail, and it's a little bit of a walk. Well, she got about halfway there and realized she'd headed out without her cane. She thought, what do I do? And so she just went ahead on to her mailbox and came all the way back and felt great and didn't need her cane, and was stable and steady. And then the next day she didn't have any, and she had almost the exact same experience the next day, no pain. And then, finally on the third day we were able to get her some more so that she wouldn't have to be without it. And she told me she never wants to be without it. So PXP is great for animals and it's great for humans. If you want to try some of it out yourself, again, just get back with the person that sent you to this audio or to this video. And thank you very much for listening. Have a great day.